Not all sexual trauma comes from obvious abuse. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, behind seductive eyes, intense promises, and a passion that feels almost too good to be true. Many realize too late they were involved with a narcissist, and that sex, far from being an act of love, was a tool of control. The body is touched, but the soul is ignored, and that leaves deep scars. This video is a wake-up call. We're going to explore subtle, but profoundly damaging, sexual behaviors narcissists use to manipulate and dominate. Because the damage isn't just physical, it erodes self-esteem, distorts your sense of worth, and traps you emotionally. If you've ever felt used, rejected, or emotionally hollow after sex with someone, it's not just in your head. It may be part of a toxic cycle that needs to be seen for what it is, and broken with truth and courage. One of the most disorienting patterns in a sexual relationship with a narcissist is the push and pull dynamic. They may reject your advances coldly, making you feel needy or ashamed, only to demand intimacy on their terms later, expecting you to comply without hesitation. This isn't about desire. It's about power. By controlling when and how sex happens, the narcissist keeps you off balance. When they ignore your touch or dismiss your needs, it chips away at your sense of desirability. You begin to question yourself. Am I not attractive enough? Did I do something wrong? Then, just when you're emotionally vulnerable, they come back, offering a moment of passion as if nothing happened. But this sudden warmth isn't connection. It's a calculated move to keep you hooked. The emotional manipulation runs deep. Withholding affection when you seek closeness, then rewarding submission with intimacy, creates a cycle of confusion and dependency. You start living for their approval, craving any sign that you're still wanted. Over time, this cycle erodes your self-worth. You no longer feel like an equal in the relationship, but more like an object to be picked up or put down depending on their mood. What's most painful is that the rejection doesn't always look violent or cruel. Sometimes it comes with a sigh, a cold silence, or a vague excuse, but the message is always the same. I control when you matter. Recognizing this pattern is the first step in breaking its spell, because true intimacy can't grow where emotional manipulation is used as currency. In a healthy relationship, sex after an argument can be a form of reconciliation, a moment of reconnection, healing, and closeness. But with a narcissist, it's something else entirely. After conflict, they often initiate sex not to make peace, but to re-establish dominance. The message is subtle but brutal. You're still mine. They may ignore your emotional needs during the argument, dismiss your pain, or even be the one who caused it. But when the fight ends, they reach for your body, not your heart. There's no apology, no accountability, just an unspoken demand that you submit again. And because you're emotionally raw, tired, confused, and desperate for any sense of closeness, you might give in. Not out of desire, but out of a deep need to feel safe again. That's exactly what they count on. By turning post-conflict sex into a ritual of control, the narcissist reinforces your dependence. They know your heart is hurting, but they don't offer comfort. They offer sex on their terms and expect you to accept it as a substitute for love. This pattern trains you to seek intimacy as a way to fix what's broken, even when the root issues are never addressed. Over time, you stop asking for emotional repair. You settle for physical closeness even when it feels empty. And each time, a piece of your trust in them and in yourself fades. This isn't healing. It's reinforcement of a toxic cycle that keeps you tied to someone who confuses dominance with affection. Real intimacy doesn't come after being emotionally wounded. It comes after mutual understanding, safety, and care. For many, sexual intimacy is a dance, a mutual exploration where both partners feel free to express, initiate, and adapt. But with a narcissist, that dance becomes a one-sided performance. They often insist on specific positions, not out of shared pleasure, but to reinforce control. It's not just about what feels good, it's about what keeps them on top, quite literally. If you suggest a new approach or express a preference, they may scoff, withdraw, or make you feel ridiculous. Over time, you stop asking. You stop participating. You become silent, a body, not a partner. The narcissist's goal isn't connection. It's dominance. They choreograph the sexual experience to ensure they remain in control of every movement, every sound, every reaction. This level of control may be subtle at first, cloaked in charm, confidence, or just what they like. But eventually, it sends a clear message. Your voice doesn't belong here. What's worse is how this impacts your inner world. You begin to disconnect from your own desires. You suppress your needs. You feel selfish for wanting reciprocity, or shameful for imagining something different. Sex, instead of being a space of trust and joy, becomes another battlefield where your autonomy is denied. True intimacy invites both partners to lead, to follow, to explore. When only one person dictates the terms, the other becomes invisible, and that erasure can linger long after the act is over. Pornography in itself isn't the problem. In some relationships, it can be used with mutual consent, playfulness, or curiosity. But in the hands of a narcissist, it often becomes a weapon, not a window into fantasy, but a mirror of rejection. Narcissists may obsessively consume porn, while emotionally and physically distancing themselves from their partner. It's not just about stimulation, it's about control, comparison, and detachment. When they choose porn over real connection, the unspoken message is devastating. You're not enough, not attractive enough, not exciting enough, not performative enough. Over time, this chips away at your self-esteem. You may begin to question your worth, your body, your desirability. You might even feel guilty for not measuring up to unrealistic, hyper-staged versions of sexuality that were never meant to represent real intimacy in the first place. Worse, some narcissists will try to incorporate pornographic standards into the bedroom, demanding performances, criticizing natural responses, or mocking emotional vulnerability. The act of sex becomes something cold, mechanical, even humiliating. Until this dynamic, your humanity is erased. You become an object to be compared, rather than a person to be cherished. What's missing is what matters most: eye contact, attunement, presence, the essence of true intimacy. Porn isn't the villain, but when it's used to replace, devalue, or punish emotional closeness, it's no longer about pleasure. It becomes another tool to dehumanize and dominate. At the beginning, it may have felt electric. The way they looked at you, touched you, desired you, it seemed almost too good to be true. And in many ways, it was. Because once a narcissist feels they've secured you emotionally, the warmth often begins to vanish. Not all at once, slowly, subtly. They reduce physical affection, stop initiating connection. Moments that once felt alive now feel cold, transactional, or simply absent. You may find yourself longing for a touch, a glance, a word, anything that signals closeness. But instead of comfort, you receive distance, silence, indifference. This isn't neglect by accident. It's a tactic. By withdrawing intimacy, the narcissist keeps you in a state of emotional hunger. You chase crumbs, grateful for any brief return of attention, even when it comes with conditions. The goal isn't to love, it's to maintain control. You begin to internalize the lack. You wonder, what changed? What did I do wrong? But the truth is, it was never about you. They give just enough to keep hope alive, a brief flirtation, a moment of closeness, and then pull away again, reinforcing the cycle of longing and confusion. This emotional starvation creates deep dependency. You're not held, seen, or valued. You're managed. And over time, you lose your ability to trust your own emotional instincts. But real intimacy doesn't vanish with time. It deepens. When it disappears, it's often a sign that what you were given in the beginning was never real. Sex with a narcissist isn't just about the act. It's about power, control, and the slow erosion of your sense of self. What begins as passion often turns into manipulation, with rejection used as punishment, affection given as reward, and intimacy reduced to a transaction. Each of the patterns we explored, the emotional push and pull, post-conflict domination, controlled positions, dehumanizing use of pornography, and the withdrawal of real connection, leave scars that go far deeper than the physical. These experiences can make you question your worth. They can make you feel broken, ashamed, or unlovable. But hear this, it's not your fault. You were never too needy. You were never too much. You were simply seeking love in a place that only offered control. Recognizing these behaviors is painful, but it's also liberating. It means you're beginning to see clearly. And once you see, you can begin to reclaim yourself, your body, your voice, your boundaries. You deserve intimacy that feels safe, mutual, and emotionally true. You deserve to be touched not just on your skin, but in your soul. Healing starts with truth, and truth begins with naming what you've lived. Thank you for being here and watching this video. If any part of this touched you, if it made you reflect, remember, or even feel seen, I invite you to stay with us on this journey. Please consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and most importantly, joining the conversation in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. What stood out to you? Have you ever experienced something like this in your own life? You can share your story, your thoughts, even just a word that describes how this made you feel. Your voice matters here, and you never know. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. We're building a space for truth, healing, and emotional freedom, and you are part of that. Thank you again. Take care of yourself, deeply.